Well, let's go back to when you started. I mean, you got an impressive number of investors that you ticked off a few of those, but that didn't just fall in your lap. I mean, let's go back to the beginning. So, I mean, did you start with your partner right off the bat, or did you have this idea and then look for a partner? Take me through the early days of how you got started, because there are a lot of people, both in the audience and who we work with, who are in the startup area, and they love to hear from those who've done it, what they've learned and what they had to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. The story is that I was working at the Good Food Institute, and I was interacting with a lot of people in our space, right? And one of the things that I did at some point was I went into Hampton Creek to do a tour there and just meet some of the team. And that was, I guess, that was Thomas and my meet cute. It was the first time we really met. He served my team, I forget what it was. I think he cooked us up the Just Egg. It was just coming out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we chatted, and it was just a normal conversation, and we parted ways. And then actually maybe like a year after that, a friend of mine came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to meet the most talented product developer in the United States?" Because he knew that I was interested in starting a company in the space. I was very transparent with everyone, including at the Good Food Institute, that my end goal was to start a company. The Good Food Institute, first, was an amazing place to learn the industry, and second, amazing place to make an impact immediately while I figured out.
I have a lot of respect for the Good Food Institute.
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was great to be able to make that impact and work in the industry while I figure out where I can make the biggest impact. And anyways, my friend came to me, he said, "Hey, you want to meet this guy? He's incredibly talented." I don't know what he said to him, but I guess Thomas wanted to meet me as well. And we kind of got set up on like a blind date almost. And we sat down and we talked and said, "Hey, what do you think about this idea of going and creating products that we really can believe in and we really can get out to the world?" And Thomas said, "Yeah, I mean, I think that is absolutely a huge opportunity." He is basically an emulsion genius, master, right? Because working on the mayonnaise and the dressing, those are all emulsions. And what is dairy if not an emulsion? And so he said, let's do this. Like, I think we can do this. And so we got together and we started working on it, on the project. And the story of how everything kind of accelerated is it's a great story. So we decided, it was late submission, like 2 days before the last day to submit to Y Combinator, which is the most prestigious tech accelerator in the world. And we said, let's do this. Like, let's just apply. And in the application, we listed our idea, which was really the Beyond Meat or Impossible Foods of dairy. And we said that we had created a prototype of sour cream, which was indistinguishable from dairy. It was a big claim, and it was not necessarily indistinguishable at the time. It was really good, but it was still, we had worked on it for about a few weeks, so it was not perfect. And so they accepted us to interview, and they invited us in to interview, and we did what Thomas does best, and we plated up this beautiful spread with the sour cream, and we put our sour cream next to Daisy, which is the best-selling sour cream in the U.S., next to Tofuti. And we had all of the panelists taste it and do the blind taste test right in front of us and tell us what they thought. And two out of the four were convinced that ours was the dairy. One out of the four knew that ours was not. And then the fourth was just like, what is going on here? Just too confused. But later that day, we got a call that said, "Hey guys, we want you to join Y Combinator, come be part of this program." And the rest is history, because once we got into that program, then it really allowed us to get in front of the right people. Like Alexis Ohanian, he actually was a partner in Y Combinator back in the day, and he's in that network. And from there, things just kind of almost like lifted themselves. I think with the excitement of plant-based and honestly the quality of the product.
Gotcha. So get into Y Combinator, and the rest is history. And make sure you have a good spread before when you interview.
I think so. Thank you for calling that out, because that's not very relatable advice. I think the real advice here is that investors love tasting amazing food because there's nothing more tangible than actually tasting a product and saying, okay, I can imagine this succeeding because I literally just tasted this, and all this requires, if it's an investor that is thinking long term, all this requires is for this company to execute and scale. And of course, those are very difficult things. But if you have founders that you believe in and the product is amazing, then it's just a matter of how do we get the right resources in place to make this happen. And so that would be my piece of advice, is just create amazing products. And I think then things will fall into place.
Yeah, and of course there are so many great accelerators now. Obviously, Y Combinator is well known, but you've got at least a couple dozen I can think of throughout the country, and they typically run these boot camps and have people who've been through it, people who have money to invest. So I think for others who are looking for that, there are many available. I'm sure the Good Food Institute probably has a list of them on their website, would be my guess. So
that's right.
Thanks for that. Okay, so you get going in Y Combinator. You've got obviously you've got your hands on some good technology. Looking back, can you just share some of the lessons learned? And oh, I wish I had known that before. What I know now. I wish I had known then. I think that's always interesting to hear.
Yeah. So let's start with a technical one that was pretty funny. Is we had actually we had our first customer sign up, and we had the first what was sort of like a purchase order, but early days startups, it's even less official than that. And so we had a deadline we had to meet, and so we went to our production facility and we created the liquid base that we needed to create. And at the time, we were so small that we were operating in not the main production facility, but kind of like the side production facility of our co-man. And yeah, so just the quality standards there were not as stringent. They were still, of course, acceptable. But what happened was we came back to the office. We had produced this product. It was a big relief. We were going to meet our purchase order. We were actually going to be able to go to market. And what we saw was just a few days later, our liquid base was starting to get thicker and thicker. And a few days after that, it was completely goopy, like a yogurt. And we said, what is going on here? And we put on our QA hats and we said, what could possibly be happening? And what ended up happening is that we had LAB inculcation of our base. And because it was functioning like dairy, that actually caused it to turn into yogurt, like that natural process.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so we essentially had this learning of, okay, first, QA is the most important thing for a food company. So we got to make sure we are buttoned up. And so we buttoned up in a huge way after that, both of course for safety, but also so our product remains milk and not yogurt. And what else we learned is that we can make yogurt pretty easily. So there was a good learning from there. Yeah, that's the one thing.
You may have given away your next category you're attacking, but so that makes a lot of sense. Or that's a good story. And I'd like to you mentioned your co-manufacturer, and you don't have to reveal who you use, but a lot of startups that I work with, I often get the question, oh, I'm struggling with finding a co-manufacturer. I'm struggling working with a co-manufacturer. They're not doing what I thought they would do. It just seems to be a real challenge for a lot of food companies. And just wanted to know if you could share any advice you have or any experience you had. I mean, was that an issue for you at first, or did you have somebody kind of right off the bat?
Yeah, I think we are both in a unique kind of place with our ability to work with co-man, and then we also face the same challenges that other people face. So the unique part is what I mentioned before, that kind of part of our secret sauce is that we can run on dairy lines. So unlike a lot of the other innovative plant-based and just food players, we don't need to introduce custom equipment, which I totally understand. If you need to introduce like a lot of custom equipment and custom processing, a co-man, it's a volume game in the end. Like they don't have an interest in now for a company that does no volume to start investing. So I totally understand how that would be very challenging. I think for us, yeah, we've had, you know, the typical challenges of not being on your own schedule, right? Like if we have a big purchase order come through and we want to fulfill it right away, well, it doesn't work like that. You need X amount of time before you can schedule with the co-man. Or if if we want to create a custom flavor that's a small MOQ, well, the co-man has a larger MOQ. And so, yeah, I don't really have any words of advice other than I think it's important to just find the right partner. And I've talked to a lot of people who know a lot more about scaling up production than me. And one of the things that really stuck with me, I spoke with the head of basically production innovation for one of the largest food companies in the world. And what he said was that early on, you have to find a co-manufacturer that is making money from your interactions. And it seems counterintuitive, but basically what he's saying is you have to make sure that the co-man that you're working with really cares about your product and cares about the quality and cares about the safety of your product. Yeah. Because in the end, if you're just an annoying bug, then they're going to cut corners with you. And you want to make sure that no corners are cut with your product, because nothing is going to kill your company faster than a recall and something bad happening, which of course is obvious, but to make that connection to making sure that your co-man has skin in the game and a long-term partnership and really understands that, I think that's key. And then of course the due diligence to make sure that is what your co-man is committed to, high quality, safe product.